Hello, I'd like to share with you some top tips for looking after your pelvic floor. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a bit of a better understanding of how your pelvic floor works with your breath and what day-to-day things you can do to make changes and improve your pelvic floor health. So the first thing we're going to talk about is addressing your breathing. And you've got this amazing image from Borough Education here, which shows you, we talk in some of the other lessons about how your pelvic floor and your diaphragm move together. So you can see here that as you breathe in, they both move down, and as you breathe out, they lift back up again. And you can also see how that impacts your abdominal muscles. So you can see how as you inhale, your belly moves out, and as you exhale, it draws towards your spine. And that is really so key towards everything that we're going to be talking about. I want you to watch this again and again until it really makes sense to you, that movement and that coordination between your breath and your pelvic floor. Every single breath you take has the potential to increase your intra-abdominal pressure. So intra-abdominal pressure is created if you take a big, well, it's created with every breath, but particularly when you take a big breath into your belly and down into your pelvis and kind of bear down with the inhale, then it really doesn't do your core any good. So it's important to learn to use the whole of your torso as you breathe. So you want your rib cage to expand at the front, the back and the sides with every inhale. And often our back and sides of our ribs can be a bit stuck. So all of the work that we're doing in the breathing exercises in the release series is going to help with that in module 1. But it's really, really important to think about your using the whole of your torso as you breathe. And if you imagine like there's a circle around the bottom of your rib cage, you're going to think that when you inhale, you breathe into that circle. And then when you exhale, that circle naturally softens down. And the same thing happens with your belly. So as you inhale, your belly moves out a little bit, as you can see in this little image, but again, it's just a little bit. So it's not a huge belly breath, it's just allowing the breath to move slightly into your belly. And then when you breathe out, your belly should naturally draw in towards your spine a little bit without pulling it in. So you're not trying to force this to happen, you're just working with what naturally happens with your breathing patterns. You should never be thinking of pulling your belly in, particularly for long periods. You know, yes, we do engage our abdominals as we try and, as we pick our kids up, it's a good idea to engage the abdominals, but you then, as soon as you don't need them anymore, your belly needs to be relaxed. So your breathing can be affected by lots of different things. It can be caused by it can be affected by your back pain, by scars and adhesions. So if you had a cesarean birth, it can be worth looking into some scar massage to really help to get that fascia, that connective tissue nice and healthy and not restricting anything in terms of your abdominal function and your breathing. We need to look at your rib cage position, your pelvic position, and the position of the rest of your spine. So basically looking at your posture, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail in another video. Your spinal mobility, how everything else is working. So your hip flexors, your psoas and your QL, there's lots of different things that you need to look at. And that's why the release module can, sometimes people don't want to do that. They want to get onto the strengthening work because, that is after all what you need to be able to do high impact exercise. However, you can't build strength when you don't have good function, and good function comes from muscles that can move and be released as much as they need to be strengthened. So don't skip through the release work because it is really, really important. So looking at your posture, as I said, we are going to talk about this in more detail elsewhere, but I couldn't not mention it here because it is so important, and your core won't function effectively if your posture is pushing things into places that they don't want to be. So looking at the position of your feet, looking at your pelvis, your rib cage and your head and how they all line up with each other is really, really important. And you can feel, if you just slump down now, you'll feel how that impacts how you breathe. And again, as you already know, your breath has a huge impact on your core function. Another key thing that I'd love for you all to do is to go and see a women's health physio. If you, particularly if you have any symptoms. So if you have symptoms, it's kind of non-negotiable. Either go to your GP and get a referral, or go and pay to see one privately, which will happen a little bit quicker. But if you don't have symptoms, it can still be worth going just to get things checked out, to find out what's going on in your pelvic floor. Do you have any tension there? Do you need to release it? Do you just need to focus on the more strengthening work when it comes to your pelvic floor? It's all, the more you know about your body, the more you understand it, the better you're going to work through this, and the better your body's going to work day to day. So I do really recommend getting some really tailored advice from a women's health physio about exactly what's happening in your pelvic floor. Another crucial point is your toilet habits. So we hopefully are going to the toilet every day. And if you're constipated, then that's likely to increase your pelvic floor dysfunction, because you're then bearing down and pushing down and creating lots of intra-abdominal pressure every day or every other day, which is going to have a negative impact on your pelvic floor. The position that you poo in can make a huge difference to how easily it passes through. So you can see in this image that we've got Squatty Potty's famous unicorn, who isn't sitting with a great angle here. So therefore his poo is going to find it a little bit harder to pass through the anorectal angle. If he sits with his feet lifted on a Squatty Potty, or even just a couple of piles of books, or a toddler's step that often we have in the bathrooms if you've got young kids, anything where you change that angle and lift your knees so that you turn into more like a squat type of angle. So we were designed to poo in a squat. If you've got a toddler or you've had a toddler, you will know that often they squat down into their nappy to do their business. And that's really how we should be doing it. But the angle that we sit at on the toilet doesn't help with that. And again, even if you don't have pelvic floor dysfunction currently, I would still say, why not just make it as easy as possible for your body to get that poo out, to hopefully then avoid anything popping up in the future. Another couple of things that are worth thinking about in terms of constipation are your water intake. So making sure that you're really drinking enough every day, and also making sure you've got enough fiber in your diet. So I've kind of covered this a little bit already, but just wanted to say again that finding your fascial restrictions is really, really important. So everything throughout your whole body is connected. If things are stuck, so like if you're really stuck in your lower back, then that's going to pull on the back of your rib cage, which is going to make it harder to breathe into the back of your ribs. Everything throughout your entire body is connected. So we need to release the fascia everywhere before we move in on to strengthening it. Like I said earlier, yes, you can go through the exercises in the program, which I hope will really help, but also just use the program to really get to know your body. You know, you might find that we do some stuff in the lower back that doesn't feel particularly relevant, but then you do a hamstring stretch and it feels like it's a huge stretch, and then you know that's what you need to be working on. I haven't included a lot of props within this course because I don't want people to have to buy loads of stuff to do it. However, if you do have props like spiky balls and the release balls that I'm sitting on in this photo, and you want some more exercises to do, drop me an email, because I do have a couple of videos that you can do, but I just haven't included. So again, just to reiterate that you can't strengthen muscles that are locked, or it's much harder to strengthen muscles when they're super tight. So this release work is just as important as the strengthening stuff that will come a little bit later. So I hope that was helpful. Do get in touch if you've got any questions. Obviously, you've got the Facebook group that you can always talk to us in, but if you wanted to be more direct and don't want to share it with everybody, then do feel free to drop me an email at hello@centeredmums.com, or go onto Instagram and drop me a DM on there. So I look forward to hearing from you all soon, and do please get in touch with us. We are here to help. We don't want you to sort of muddle through the program feeling like you don't know what's happening. I really encourage you to be in touch and let us help you as much as we can.